first time in 8 years, the American Flat Track Championship rolled into the Minnesota Mile at Canterbury Park, just outside of Minneapolis for the Indian Motorcycle Mile. Jared Mees has already wrapped up this year's title. He actually has not won either of the last 3 races, which is huge for him. Briar Bauman did win our last race. He's getting better and better every week on his Indian. And Brian Smith, always a contender when we get to the miles. Brian showing you just how cold it is here in Minnesota. This guy's hot, Dan Bromley. He has wrapped up the singles class championship this year on his KTM. But when you get to the mile tracks, Shayna Texter on the Husqvarna, always a contender. She's seeking her 3rd win of the 2018 season. Should be an excellent night for racing. Jason Wygant, Ralph Shaheen, and Heather DeBode give you all the action from the Minnesota Mile. Yes, 55 degrees, and as we go closer into main event time, it's only going to get colder. It was wild at our last race. We're going to catch up from Williams Grove in Pennsylvania. Big crash on the first lap, and you do see this thing a time or two, but it's the reaction from Kenny Coolbeth, who goes down here, that indicated there was something a little more dramatic to it. Watch the 10 of Johnny Lewis. They get too close for comfort. Not only does Coolbeth go down, but he nearly gets tagged by several other riders, luckily able to escape uninjured, but he was not happy with the contact from Lewis, and he made that displeasure known. Here's Heather with an update.
Thanks, Jason. Following the race at Williams Grove Speedway, American Flat Track officials reviewed all available footage of the on-track incident between Johnny Lewis and Kenny Coolbeth Jr. They announced Johnny Lewis would be placed under a 1-year probation for violating an on-track regulation during lap 1 of the Twins main event. Kenny Coolbeth's penalties for striking Lewis under the red flag include a 1-race suspension, $2,500 fine, and a 1-year probation. Kenny Coolbeth is not here tonight to defend his win from 2010, but 2 riders who look strong are Henry Wiles and Briar Bauman, who are looking to get a win on this mile, which would also give them their first career Grand Slam.
Yeah, the Grand Slam is winning in each discipline of American Flat Track. We'll see Kenny Coolbeth back at our finale in New Jersey, but let's talk Minnesota here, Ralph.
2 biggest things to take note of. This track is 100% wider than it was the last time we were here. It was 30 feet wide last time. It's 60 feet wide now. That is a huge amount of racetrack to utilize. The other thing is the temperature. It is chilly and going to get colder as we get deeper into the night. How will that impact the riders?
That's going to just throw another curveball. We love to see that kind of thing, and we've got yet another here because J.D. Beach is back after doing his real job, which is winning the Super Sport title in Moto America Road Racing for Yamaha. He signed a deal with Estenson Yamaha to race the last 2 flat track races of the year, and he was with us earlier this season and even got a podium at our season opener.
The deal with Tim Estenson, it kind of came together once our season got over. I wanted to try and come dirt track, and it was really quick for them to get the bikes ready. But so far it's been good. It took about a lap or so to kind of really get that feel again of like the smoothness of going into the turns and stuff. It has been a while since I've rode a mile. We're just gonna kind of try and work through this and see what we can do.
Beach also on the podium at our season finale last year, so he can jump right in and mix it up with these riders. Highlights from qualifying. First heat race, no surprise. Jared Mees takes the win. He's got Henry Wiles right behind him. Wiles really wants to win here, though, to get that Grand Slam and to have won an event in every type of track we race on. Brian Bauman, who was second at our last event in Pennsylvania, electrical issues in his heat race. He will not qualify for the main event. Brian Smith, the mile master, goes on to win that one, but here's some drama. Briar Bauman's bike breaks, and he's trying to coast the line and qualify. There is Jared Vanderkoy to put him into 3rd, and he limps across the line and is still able to get a 3rd place finish, and that is enough to make the main. Clutch issues for him. Got to try to get that fixed before the main. Smith holds on to take the win. Beach is in the main event also with a 5th place finish. And no surprise in Heat 3, Jeffrey Carver's been fast all year, and he's fast again now.
Boy, he sure is, and look out for Carver here tonight. That's going to be one of the riders to definitely keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's in contention every weekend, but especially on these mile tracks. But this rider's been Mr. Consistency on every track. Dan Bromley, your new champion in the singles division. Will he go for the gold again? How about Colby Carlisle, last year's champ? Some great racing coming up next. American Flat Track on NBCSN is brought to you by Harley-Davidson. the official motorcycle of AFT Twins. And by American Flat Tracker Clothing Company. Find your groove at AmericanFlatTracker.com. And by Law Tigers, America's motorcycle lawyers. There is Dan Bromley, number 62 in the KTM, your new champion of the AFT singles division. He finished second in the class a few years back, returned to it this year, and now he's got the coveted number 1.
Last year, if AFT didn't give me the opportunity to move down to the singles, that I was pretty much gonna hang up my shoe and just call it that. Because, you know, when you get to a point and you just don't have fun in racing, why do it? To be able to say that I was able to find my love for racing and win, just amazing.
Here it is, Dan Bromley takes the win here at Daytona. Bromley wins his second race of the season. Checkers are out. Bromley wins again. When it's your year, and it certainly looks that way for Dan Bromley. Another checkered flag.
I knew I could be up front and that I should be a top 5 rider, where I know a lot of the racetracks I should win. Some races, even a mile, Oklahoma, I didn't even think I could get a top 10, and I went out and won. A big thing, too, is when KTM stepped on board to help me out with a little bit faster bikes. Prior to this season, most of the bikes I ran were stock, so I could only ride them to a certain point. After that, I didn't really have much left, for this year it made it a little bit easier for me, knowing that I have bikes that are competitive and that I can be competitive on them.
Dan Bromley, who finished second in this series back in 2015, has claimed the championship.
As an amateur coming up, everybody wants to be the number 1 plate rider in the professional ranks, and it was definitely very special and very emotional behind the scenes, because it's hard to talk about. Just to see everybody that put everything into my program. This is hard. Yeah. Last year, when I moved to the singles, I actually moved my whole life to Maryland, just to be able to train and ride and just be able to enjoy motorcycles again. My parents, you know, they sacrificed everything, my whole career, just to get me to this point. It feels crazy to be able to say that I'm a champion and be able to say that I did it.
Boy, you can certainly tell this title meant a lot to Dan Bromley.
Well, you know, when you're in the middle of chasing it, it's like a big whirl when you don't necessarily always remember or realize what's going on around you. And then suddenly you've accomplished a dream and it settles down, and that's when the emotion sinks in. And to think that of the races so far, he only has 1 race he has finished outside of the top 10. Consistency was his key, along with 4 wins.
Let's get into qualifying highlights from earlier today. Colby Carlisle takes the win in singles heat 1. Gunning for his 3rd mile main event win of the season. He won the title last year without winning any races, so he's been quick this season. And you always know the 52 of Shayna Texter will run up front at mile races. She wins heat race number 2 over Brandon Price and Ben Louse, so she'll have a good grid position come main event time. And in heat 3, Dan Bromley again showing he can get it done even on the big mile tracks. Surprised himself earlier in the year by winning in Oklahoma, but it's not a surprise any longer. And one other thing we can lock in, it should be a great race. It has been so dynamic, the singles division this year. Riders getting ready. That includes Kevin Stallings. He has won in this division before. And there's Shayna. She has certainly become a crowd favorite. And at these mile tracks, expect her to be gunning for the number 1. There's Carlisle. Again, would be the 3rd win of the year for him if he can get it tonight. Here's your starting lineup. Yes, Bromley has been consistent. He's already won the title, but that kind of belies the point that this has been a pretty wide open class.
Oh, it really has been. We've seen a wide variety of riders winning races. The key for Bromley, though, was that consistency. When you're finishing in the top 10, you're racking up good points.
You can see the wind blowing right there. We mentioned the temperature is just getting colder and colder. How will it affect the motorcycles, the track surface, and the riders? Here we go, our singles main event at the Minnesota Mile. Bromley on the inside. Let's see if he can hold it. Battling it out with Carlisle. Carlisle, the number 1, the Estenson Racing Yamaha to the lead.
Well, Shayna got off to a really bad start. Meanwhile, Carlisle, who said he's going to go for it all year, went for it in the start here, and to the lead he goes.
Brandon Price of the 92 down to the inside on Bromley, looking to take over second. Now we're going to get a look at the different grooves on this track. Is inside better than outside or vice versa? Bromley able to hold Price off. And here we go in front of the grandstands here. Carlisle going to try to break away, drafting a huge part of these mile tracks. He wants to get a gap. Bromley wants to stay there, and Price wants to pass Bromley. And these three already marching away a bit. Jesse Janisch fourth.
Well, this thing's 100, what'd we say, 60 feet wide?
Yeah.
100% wider than it was the last time we were here. These guys are hugging the rail on the bottom.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They just want about 3 feet is all they need. There's Carlisle, flying tomato as they call him. You see the logo on the back fender. And as Price and Bromley keep battling each other, Carlisle pulling away ever so slightly. Bromley stingy with that second place position. He will not let Price have it.
And we've seen Dan win on a mile this year, so he's capable here.
Yeah, and Dan's one of the bigger riders out here, and it's surprising when the riders talk to you about it. Aerodynamics of being big is a factor. That's why he surprised himself when he won that one. He's really got to tuck into that machine on this big back straightaway.
You gotta try to get below the paint right on that gas tank, and it's tough to do when you're the stature of Dan Bromley.
It's working right now. He's second, and they have not allowed Carlisle to get too far away. Still Jesse Janisch in fourth. We'll have the radar out for Shayna Texter. Ninth early on after winning her heat. Starts have been a problem for her all season long. But the pack is pretty close back there, so you can expect some jostling for position. But I don't know if anyone's going to catch this top three. They're starting to break away.
They're going to have to work together, aren't they? And do it quickly to catch these guys. They're within striking distance, but they're going to have to get going.
Yeah, absolutely. They're battling each other back there, and we'll see if that makes them go faster or slower. There's Janisch in fourth. Ryan Wells on the Honda coming through in fifth. Not a lot of passing in that group. I have to wonder if they're trying to run in formation to close this gap down like you were talking about, but it's not working yet.
I think at this stage of the game you have to try. Oh, boy, did you see Carlisle's bike bucking in the middle of the corners there?
Yeah, we saw a mistake like that, I believe, from Price earlier in the main, so a little deceptive here where the traction is and isn't. You got to deal with some holes as well. Bromley trying to manage it back there in second. And a nice comeback for Price. He was actually battling Bromley for the points lead early in the season until a vicious crash, but he has been able to get back going, and this is one of his best runs since returning from injury. We go back to this battle for fourth, Janisch and Ryan Wells.
Little dry out there tonight, too, in the racing surface as Wells makes the move, and he'll pick up the spot going into three.
Whoa, and Janisch, really a specialist on these short tracks and especially the TTs, but riding well on the big mile track here, but he does lose that spot to Wells. So let's see what Wells, who is second in the points, can do with that gap up ahead. This is Texter. Yeah, she started third in the grid because she won her heat. Back in ninth because of the terrible start.
We can hear her fighting that throttle. There's quite a bump going into three. Oh, man, she is fighting it through there.
Yeah, that sounded out of control.
Little off the preferred line, I think.
That did not look like the way she would draw that up.
Now, here comes that bump on the entrance to three. And right in there, you can see it really kicks up the rear tire on Wells' bike.
And Ralph, you can hear mid-corner, they are low in the RPMs. So I'd imagine traction at a premium here. Look at this. Bromley is now broken away from Price. It's a one-on-one duel for the lead between he and Carlisle. Let's send it to Heather.
If Colby Carlisle is able to hang on to this lead and get the win, not only would it be his third win on a mile, but it would also be his third win of the season. When I spoke to him earlier today, he said he is really wanting to get that done for Estenson Racing. They did have a slight issue in practice and qualifying. They had an oil leak that they had to fix, but he said other than that, the bike is running great and he feels strong.
And thanks, Heather. Carlisle last year was Mr. Consistency, but he didn't win a race, and he told us at the opener at Daytona he had a point to prove. He wanted to show he could win races. He was going to take more chances. For better or for worse, that's exactly what's happened. He has been inconsistent this year, but he does have a couple of race wins, and he's working on another. But Dan Bromley, this year's champ, isn't going to make it easy on him. Stay with us. Two years collide out here as Colby Carlisle, last year's champ of the singles class, and Dan Bromley, this year's champ, battle for the lead. American Flat Track, Minnesota Mile. And then just behind them, Ryan Wells looking to make moves for the podium. He's number 94. Tristan Avery in the 16 in third. So they're dicing for the final podium spot And it's a good one right now. Avery just holding off Wells.
Wells trying to get tucked up in there, take advantage of the draft, avoid that bump in 3,
Ooh.
which kicks Bromley wild too. Looks like there's one on the exit through there as well in the middle of the corner. So 3 and 4 is getting a little rough, little dry out there tonight. Dusty as you've seen, and of course really windy, and all those factors are coming into play.
Yeah, just little mistakes here and there. Bromley gets a run on him, then hits that bump. Now you see a little gap for Carlisle. Bromley's been able to reel him in before. Let's see if he can do it again. But a great setup between two championship-proven riders right now. And I'm sure for Carlisle, it'd be great to beat the rider that took the #1 plate away from you for next year. There is Avery and Wells.
And if you're wondering what all that is flying around, it's not necessarily trash, but it's racer trash. It's tear-offs that have come off of the helmets that the riders have to layer on so that they can always have clean vision as the night wears on.
Shout out to Cameron Smith in that #5 spot. Best run of the year for him. And had a couple of good ones last year. This season has been a struggle. Top 5 of the #44. Back to our leaders. It's still Carlisle versus Bromley.
Well, those rear tires are really skirting around, aren't they? You can see these guys fighting for that grip coming off. And look at Bromley trying to whip the horse down the backstretch, trying to get a little more out of himself.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it takes. These singles bikes, these are 450cc motocross machines converted over to flat track. Now, Bromley, I believe, does have some factory KTM parts from their Supercross and motocross team in that engine, but he apparently wants a little more. 2 to go, and here's why. Because he's trying to overhaul Carlisle for the lead.
Well, a 450 has more power than... Whoa, boy, that was tight. A 450 has more power than you need on a Supercross and motocross track, but on a big mile, any good racer always wants more get up and go, and Bromley is looking to put the spurs to it.
Here it is, a lap and a half to go. So what do you think? This is the closest Bromley has been. That was an aggressive pass attempt. Do you think he's been waiting the whole time to unleash this?
I think he's giving it everything he's got. The door just about open there as Colby slipped, but Dan just wasn't in a position to take advantage of it.
Okay, so it's going to be a little chess match. Does Bromley have something saved for this last lap? White flag is out. Carlisle gunning for his 3rd win of the season. Bromley's going to start this corner on the outside. Let's see if he tries to go back to the inside of the exit. He's right there.
He's always good through right here. The challenge, wow, look at the bump. That is, speaking of motocross, supercross, that's a pretty good kicker.
Whew, lucky to hold on to the motorcycles there. Avery still clinging to 3rd behind them, but here it is. Turns 3 and 4. Bromley's gonna try to make the big run. He's gonna come in hot around the outside. No room. Carlisle maintains the line, manages that bump as well, and another. Now we're on to the back stretch, the front stretch in front of the fans. Full tuck for Carlisle, and he's gonna hold off Bromley to take the win. Great racing all the way through. Tristan Avery will hold on for 3rd. Backed by Ron Ayers and Mr. Sign on his Honda, but it's the Estenson Racing Yamaha of Carlisle. Bromley had a couple shots at it, but it wouldn't materialize.
Well, the difference was the entrance and the exit.
And the start, look at this.
The start for sure is where Colby got out front. And then at the end of the race, it was Bromley who got into 3 better, but Carlisle got off of 4 better, and that was the difference.
Flying Tomato with the win.
Colby Carlisle with the win here at the Minnesota Mile. Not only is it your 3rd win of the season, 3rd win on a mile, but you just told me you were having bike issues there at the end. What was happening?
Oh, yeah, I was starting to freak out there with 3 laps to go. You know, I thought I had an electrical issue, and then 2 laps to go, I'd let off the gas, and the bike would completely shut off going into the corner. And I knew that there was a wire there broken, so I just had to hold it wide open, and that would kick the bike sideways because they go from blah to wah, so... it wasn't good, but I'm so happy we got the job done tonight. You know, the Estenson Racing Yamaha YZ450 worked so good. My team, you know, we worked really hard these past 2 weeks. We weren't just sitting around, and obviously it paid off. You know, thanks to my whole crew, the team, my dad, my mom, everyone. Happy birthday to my dad. It's his birthday tomorrow.
Whew. Mike cutting out and under pressure from Bromley and still gets it done. As we mentioned, Avery, a great job holding off Wells for 3rd. And Cameron Smith does hold on to that top 5 ahead of Price, Shane at Texter 7th, Whale, Janish, and Lau rounded out the top 10.
A second place tonight for Dan Bromley and yet another podium finish. Dan, I thought I saw you giving your bike there a little giddy up to catch up to Colby. Was that what was happening?
Yeah, a few times, you know. I'm out here, KTM provided me an amazing motorcycle that we were able to ride on short tracks, TTs, half miles and miles, and it's kind of an all-around bike, and following Colby out there was a little bittersweet because I knew I can get him in the corners, but on the straightaways, they purposely built that motor just for miles, and I just didn't have it for him. So I was trying to give myself a little extra, little giddy up, get it going a little quicker, but I'm trying to go out with a bang, you know. I've been on the podium most of this season, and I want to go out on the podium again, and hopefully with another win in front of a hometown crowd.
And there's your podium shot. Avery celebrating along with Carlisle and Bromley. Our finale in New Jersey. Yes, not too far from where Bromley calls home most of the time, which is in Pennsylvania. This guy also has Pennsylvania roots and championship roots. Jared Mees has dominated the Twins division again for 2018, and he is once again your American Flat Track champ. We'll talk to him about it when we return. American Flat Track on NBCSN is brought to you by Indian Motorcycle. Be legendary. By E3 Spark Plugs, the official spark plug of AFT. And by Vance & Hines, the presenting sponsor of AFT Twins. Just about set for the Minnesota Mile, brought to you by Indian Motorcycle. But first, here's Heather with the Dunlop Tire Tech Tip.
Due to the colder weather and minimal tire wear, riders and teams will not have to worry about tire fall-off or tire temperatures. So all the riders in the main event tonight will be running the R8, which is the softer of the two compounds provided by Dunlop here on the mile tracks.
Well, this is awesome. Brad Baker joining us as the Grand Marshal for the Minnesota Mile. Superstar and former champ of the series, injured at midseason at X Games. Always good to see him at the races. But this man has been the man this year. Jared Mees absolutely dominating in 2018 and starting to climb the record books as well with this type of performance.
You know, I think to carry 2017 over into 2018 for me was just a mix of things. Obviously, one of them is confidence, and then also starting off winning Daytona. My program was set pretty much from 17 to 18 identical with the same great team that I had. So mentally, I just felt like there should be no reason why we can't pick up where we left off. In the beginning of the year, man, we just came out swinging.
Jared Mees continues his dominance of AFT Twins in 2018. He has broken everyone. Huge lead and yet another win.
I don't know what to say. Yeah, it was a disbelief a little bit. We were on our game and we were hitting our marks and we were communicating so well. And I mean, some people would like to say, oh man, he's always lucky. But you know, they say, well, a man makes his luck. And I don't know what it is, but it's hard to be lucky year after year, I could say that.
Your 2018 champion of American Flat Track is Jared Mees.
I felt more pressure of winning every race than I did winning the championship, if that makes any sense. Like, I just came into every race and I was just focused to win this point in time right now. So the championship was just like, I knew that if I brought it every race and if I were to go there and win every race, that the championship would just fall in place. For me, I just learned to deal with the pressure over the years. I wrestled in high school, and anybody that knows anything about wrestling knows that you don't get nothing for free on the wrestling mat. You walk off the mat and there's no excuses. It's you and your opponent, and you have to beat him. If you stepped on that scale and you needed to be 145 pounds and you were 145.1, you weren't wrestling that day, and you let your team down, you let your coach down. That's what brought me to where I'm at today, is just the focus and determination. In my early part of my career, we looked at guys like Ricky Graham and Scotty Parker and Chris Carr as like legends. And here I am, you know, 5, 6 years, 7 years later, doing and beating and matching some of what they've done. It's phenomenal to be a part of that history with my team. I would say that I'm in my prime. If I haven't reached my prime yet, I can't wait. In my early 30s, I have a great team. We want to go out there and make 2018 and 2017 look like it was nothing and make 2019 a stand-up pedestal year.
That would be scary if he could replicate this in 2019, because it's been unbelievable this season.
Well, he's 2 wins away from tying the great Ricky Graham, and he could do that. And he talked about how Graham and Parker and Carr are legends. Well, guess what? He's won too. We will talk about him someday the same way we talk about those guys.
A lot of attention because this sport is growing, and he is the man at the top of the mountain that everyone is watching. Of course, they're keeping an eye on the track as well. We will check in with the factory Harley-Davidson team, including Brandon Robinson and Jared Vanderkoy, for their analysis of the Minnesota Mile, and then we'll clear the decks and go racing with our main event. American Flat Track here on NBCSN. We are ready for the Indian Motorcycle Minnesota Mile. How's this racetrack going to shape up? Well, we'll get some in-depth analysis from the factory riders on the Harley-Davidson team.
This track at Canterbury Park is pretty crazy. It's a light cushion film up top, and it's forming a little rubber on the bottom and getting little holes, so it's pretty tricky and treacherous. And man, it's got all the elements tonight.
It's turned into a good track. It's brushed off quite a bit, but the cushion's up there still. So a lot of the riders are chasing the cushion, but the bottom where it's brushed off, we're getting some hard ruts in it, and it's going to be technical.
Just being a horse track mile, it's got similarities to just traditional horse track miles, whether it's ones in Arizona or California or wherever. The temperature's cool, which keeps the track pretty good, so we'll see how it shapes up. I mean, some guys are running the high line in practice, but I think the low line might come in later.
It kind of reminds me of Oklahoma. Same skittery, and it's getting a little rough, getting holes in it now. That's more my style. I like those tracks a little bit better because you have to actually ride the corner a little harder.
Kind of like the shape and kind of skittery, hole-ish, kind of as Arizona, but you got the up top cushion, you know, something like Oklahoma, but not the gravel. It's more like a sand cushion.
Every change we make, it's getting better and better. I'm getting more and more comfortable on the Harley, so I'm happy with it. The guys are doing a great job.
We've had a pretty good handle on the Harley-Davidson XG750 today, and it's going to change a lot, and I think the guy who stays up on top of those changes throughout the night is going to be the guy who wins.
I was pretty far off in qualifying. Hopefully I turn it around for the race. You know, once that green light goes, look, I'm going to send it. So it'll be interesting to see how it shapes up, but it's nice racing here in Minnesota.
Here's the lineup for your main event. Brian Smith has the top grid choice. He's always good on the miles, so he's going to be one to watch. Jared Mees, your champion. We'll see how those factory Harley riders who we just saw in the piece will do. JD Beach coming back to the series after winning a road racing title. Mile races are just fun to watch, though, no matter what rider you're keeping an eye on. They're usually good battles right to the end.
That's what this sport is all about. That's to the core. When you think of flat track, the first thing you think of is the miles if you're a fan. If you're a rider, maybe it's the short tracks or TT, because that might have been where you began your career. But the miles, this is what American flat track is truly all about.
Here it is, 25 laps in the Minnesota Mile. Mees on the number 1 has been so good off the starts this year, but not this time. He's around the outside, though. Whoa, he's still going to make up ground. Chad Coase has the lead. Mees on that number 1 up in the cushion, that soft dirt wide. And it looks like Mees is in second, so Coase is going to clinch the K&N Whole Shot Award. Shuffling into third is Brian Smith in the number 4, and he's going after Coase. And Mees already to the number 1 spot. That was a quick pass.
Boy, it didn't take long, and it looks like Smith has decided that he and Mees are going to be the two to decide this thing, and they're going to try to break away here and settle it between these two mile masters.
Coase still hanging with Smith, at least for the moment, but he's been shuffled from first to third in a hurry. Let's see if Mees can break away like he was able to do at some of the mile races earlier in the year. But only a few weeks ago, Brian Smith was able to get a win from him on one of these mile tracks. So Smith looking to hang with him, and now Briar Bauman in fourth, trying to pass Coase for third, and he has it. No, Coase comes back.
It has been a dry racetrack here, and look at how far up on the racetrack our race leader is compared to everybody else. Mees is just pushing the cushion way up there, bringing in a whole new line while everybody else has been running the line that has been the traditional one here all night, more down on the bottom along the poles.
Yeah, I have not seen anyone out there. That includes our singles main that just happened. Now Bauman's starting to run that cushion line around the outside too on the number 14, and he's going to make it work. Does he have a pass on Brian Smith for second? Yes, he does.
Well, you got to go where the other guy isn't, right? And he made it work.
So now
I got to be honest with you. I'm surprised he's been able to hang in there with these two up front like he has. He's doing a great job.
Yes, but Smith quickly fires back as soon as you were wondering if Smith, who's so good in these mile tracks, would fight back. He did. Bauman, so wide in that corner, he could actually look over his shoulder to see the rider next to him, and he executes another pass on Smith. So great racing second and third, and they're not letting Mees get away. Coast under fire. Henry Wiles in the 17 trying to get him for fourth. And he does by using that inside line.
This race had all the potential of Smith and Mees breaking away and settling in between the two of them. But Bauman is showing he can win on more than just the short tracks. He's up here fighting for the win on this mile.
Yeah, carrying that confidence after winning our last race on the half mile. Look at this on the inside. Almost makes the pass on Mees. Good battle here right in front of the grandstands in Minnesota. Here's Heather.
We are watching a great battle between the number 1 of Jared Mees and the 14 of Briar Bauman. If you remember in Briar's heat race, he actually slowed down and ended up finishing third due to clutch issues. But during the break, they were able to fix that bike and get it ready. I got a chance to speak with Briar, and he told me prior to having that mechanical issue, he felt great, and he thinks that he can get it done today. Not only get his first win on a mile, but complete the Grand Slam, first of his career.
Here it is on the inside. Heather, he's going to try to get Mees. He almost made it happen a lap ago. This time he completes the pass. Briar Bauman. Man, you passed Smith and Mees on the same night. You are on fire.
What a great slide job. Man, he tossed that thing in there and rode it out beautifully and made Mees get off of his line and out of the throttle.
And Mees quickly responds to take the lead back. Mile combat here. You can expect this type of passing corner after corner, lap after lap, multiple lines, and it is absolutely wheel to wheel on the backstretch. Mees able to edge ahead.
One of the things Briar's doing really well is he's watching and learning from Mees. You can see they both have moved up into that cushion, and they are just eating it up there.
Bauman started the year in a Kawasaki, switched to the Indian, which has been so dominant as of late, but he admitted it took a while to get comfortable on the bike as results sort of sagged at mid-season. He told me every weekend he comes in here with a different setup. Obviously, after the win at our last event, he's finally feeling comfortable. But to take it to Mees on a mile track all the way around the outside, well, that's some comfort right there. He can put that bike anywhere he wants, and right now he's put it into the number 1 spot.
It's a good thing this track is 60 feet wide because Bauman used 59.5 feet of it.
Fearless to run all the way where no one has been able to make it work. And now Mees, wow, this is a trust game. Incredible how close they are at high speed in these corners while sliding. I thought Mees had the pass made, not quite. Oh, this is just fantastic. And we're only 7 laps into a 25-lap main event. What surprises me, they pulled away just a bit from Brian Smith as they push each other up front.
Boy, they're using a lot of body English up there. And look at the roost getting kicked off up on that cushion.
Well, Heather certainly has a good view of this from the infield. Let's get an update.
The number 4 of Brian Smith was one of the last riders to win on a mile back at Springfield just a few races ago. He told me that he was confident coming into these final 2 miles that he could get a win, but right now he is doing everything he can to catch up to the leaders. They are far ahead of him, so he's going to have to hit his marks and hope that they have bad luck in order to get a podium finish.
He's in no man's land right now. 4th place not close to him, but nor is 2nd. I think Smith's starting to pick it up here just a little bit while those two are trading paint up front. Now, Bauman, dare I say it, edging away just a bit from Mees. Although Mees, obviously, this year's champ is a cagey one and very strategic.
Yeah, but look at how much speed Jared carries into the corner. Then he drifts wide, and Bauman pulls away a little bit right through the middle. Now let's see if Jared's closing back in again.
Yeah, I've got to wonder if he's going to school back there on Bauman and trying to figure out a new line to make a pass. Or is Briar Bauman looking at 2 wins in a row? Stay with us from Minnesota. American Flat Track on NBCSN. There is Brian Smith, the master of the miles on the number 4. But he has been outmastered tonight. Up front, Briar Bauman putting in an incredible run. Wait a minute, that's 2nd place. That is Jared Mees going slow down on the apron.
I can't believe this. sounds like, well, he's got a little power going. But this Kenny Tolbert-tuned Indian has been so mechanically sound this year. They've lost races, but not due to mechanical issues.
No, honestly, ever since he jumped on the Indian last season and then this one, virtually zero mechanical problems for Mees at all, but he has come to a stop on the racetrack. Second place is out now. This is a shocker. Just mechanical problems have happened to others, but you just don't see this thing with Mees.
Yeah, Jeffrey Carver's the one that comes to mind. He's been troubled by it, but boy, Tolbert and this Indian have been so mechanically sound. I'm stunned, as I'm sure Jared Mees is.
Okay, so Mees was in a huge battle for the lead with this man, the 14, Briar Bauman. But now that Mees is out, Bauman has been handed a gigantic gap. And you just don't see leads like this normally at a mile race. But look at the lead he does have. This is Brian Smith in second.
Well, and look, he's earned every bit of this, right? He's been right there with Mees. In fact, he's been showing Mees the way around all night. So Briar is doing a fantastic job here tonight.
Smith in second, still digging on that factory Indian to try to catch back up.
Well, Brian's having a really good night, too. I mean, the gap between Brian and Henry Wiles is just about as big as the gap between Bauman and Smith.
Man, this track getting rough. Saw those bumps down in the low groove. They played a factor in our singles main. They're probably only even worse now. Smith just trying to figure out some sort of line, some way to close back up on Briar Bauman.
Well, he's riding hard, too.
Yeah.
And fast. Just Bauman is that much faster. Bauman is having a night on the mile like we're used to seeing with Jared, certainly earlier in the season, where he would just get way out in front, dominate.
This is Brandon Robinson here on the factory Harley. You see the bad getaway for him. He started 14th, now up to 7th. Brandon missed a few races at mid-season with a foot injury, so he is definitely starting to find his race pace again on the number 44. He's engaged in a big battle, though, right now. No battling up front. Briar Bauman, there's really zero communication that you can get to a rider. I would assume maybe he saw Mees off to the side of the track. He's going to figure out for himself what happened and how big of a lead does he now have? Because even if he looks over his shoulder, he's not going to see Smith.
No, but he certainly knows that Mees is standing onto the inside of the racetrack. Yep. Because one thing is he hasn't seen a tire come up alongside in about a couple of laps. So he knows Mees is gone, and I'm sure he can see him standing over there on the inside. Now he's just trying to hit his marks and get to the finish.
Well, incredible performance here by Briar Bauman with 5 to go at our last race. Not only did he win, but his brother Bronson finished right behind him in second. So the brothers went 1-2. Here's Smith coming across the line for 5 to go. Henry Wiles, trust us, that's the number 17. The plate is covered, but he's looking for a podium finish now that he will inherit because Mees is out. And this is the type of season it has been for Henry Wiles. Very consistent on all the surfaces, always good in the TTs, and got that win at the Peoria TT, where track he basically owns. But even in the mile tracks, he has been very strong this year.
Yeah, we've spent so much time talking about the dominance of Mees and great runs by others. Henry Wiles has just kind of been in the shadows, just cranking right along, having a very solid year, and probably not earning the credit he should get for the quality of season he's had.
Yeah, he's actually second in points. Maybe all of the wins haven't been as spectacular. He goes to Peoria and wins. That's almost expected. Other riders have had great individual rides. Jeffrey Carver won the Springfield Mile. Brian Smith won our last mile race, and we mentioned Bauman winning the last event we had, which was a half mile. But Wiles, every race has been solid, and that's why he is second in the series standings. But when anyone talks points, it's already over. Jared Mees has the championship because this type of bad luck. He waited till very late in the season to finally have one of these DNFs.
Yeah, Henry's only been out of the top 10 once this year, and it was an 11th.
He's been that good, but boy, this is the man to watch right now. Briar Bauman on the Zanatti racing machine. As I mentioned before, he started the year on a Kawasaki, won a race on that machine last year, started this year pretty strong, but then he decided to switch to the Indian. It wasn't an instant results machine. In fact, his results sagged a bit as he got used to it. Here he is on the 14. Says he's been testing in every race, doesn't get the test during the week. They're changing the setup all the time. He's finally comfortable on the machine, and it is obvious now. looking at a dominant victory, and to do it on a half mile and then a mile back-to-back. That really shows you something.
Whoa, what's wrong
he's going
here?
slow here.
Look at him looking down.
Yeah. And, okay, he's not even on the gas coming out of this corner. He is coasting.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Okay, so he had a clutch problem, by the way, in qualifying. That is not even second place behind him yet. His lead is so big. Now we finally see Brian Smith, but Bauman with the handoff, it's over.
Over to Mees even, too.
So both of them with mechanical problems, and here comes Brian Smith to take the lead in unorthodox fashion. They had worked their way past him, they had pulled away, and Brian Smith right now is going to be headed for victory anyway.
Well, here it is, the highs and lows of racing. There's the white flag for Smith, and Bauman can just sit there in frustration along with Mees and watch Brian Smith take another win this year.
Unbelievable what has happened on this track. I don't know if it's the same issue for both Mees and Bauman, but either way, Brian Smith is going to take it. This guy is known as the mile master, so obviously at most of these races he wins because he's good, but I'm sure he'll be glad to take one because he is lucky, and he is on the final lap. Brian Smith has to be in shock himself to see two contenders pull off the racetrack while ahead of you. It's over. Brian Smith wins his second race of the year here at the Minnesota Mile.
And his second one on a mile.
Yeah, and then Henry Wiles comes across. He will inherit second. And Robert Pearson is going to take a podium, first one of the year for him. In third, everyone benefits from the leaders running into trouble. You won't even see them here in the top 10. Chatco's fourth, Carver was fifth, Vanderkoy, Beach, Robinson, Rush, and Higgins round out the top 10. Motul move of the race, an unorthodox move. Just drive by the leader while he's coasting.
Yeah, he didn't really have to do too much to earn that, although Brian did run a really good race. Let's not take anything away from him, and he had a healthy lead over Henry Wiles. But there they are on the right side of the screen, Mees and Bauman sitting dead in the water.
An impromptu bench racing session between those two. Let's send it to Heather with our winner.
In an unexpected finish, Brian Smith brings home the win here at the Minnesota Mile, second mile win of the season. Coming into these final two races, you said you were confident you could get it done. But tell me what's going through your mind when you're sitting in third thinking you can't catch those guys, and then slowly one by one they have mechanical issues.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it any way I can get it. But, you know, obviously you got to finish to win, and that just shows you the crew of guys I got behind me, Brandon Bergen, Jeff Gordon, Ricky Howerton, and Ron Glidden gave me a great bike that outlasted the rest of the Indians. So my hat's off to them and all the whole Indian crew. But, yeah, you're sitting there in third. I'm thinking, damn, I guess I'm getting third today. And there goes one and there goes another, and I look back, nobody's around me. I'll take it.
Brian's a good guy. He's had his bad luck this year, broke his leg earlier in the season. Racing, it's a big wheel, and sometimes it comes around. Shows your number. American Flat Track on NBCSN is brought to you by Harley-Davidson, the official motorcycle of AFT Twins, and by American Flat Tracker Clothing Company. Find your groove at AmericanFlatTracker.com. And by American Flat Track, America's original extreme sport. Sunoco Go the Distance Award standings. We total up all the miles run this year. These two, Mees and Bauman, didn't get all the miles in today as their bikes broke. Henry Wiles leads that standing and is second tonight.
Finishing second tonight, and his sixth podium of the season is Henry Wiles. Henry, you're deep in the field there. There was some roost tonight. Just how treacherous or challenging was the race tonight for you?
Oh, it was definitely a challenge at first, and I thought I was going to nail the start, and I got a little bit cross-rutted in my rut, and got a little squirrely coming off the line, and thankfully I was able to get through a few guys, and didn't even know that I had the second place spot until after the checkered flag on the back stretch. I saw Jared first, and I thought, sweet, I think I got a podium finish tonight, and then I saw Breyer a little bit further down the straight, and I thought, wow, that's tonight just got better. So I was hoping to be a little bit more in the mix, but thankful for the position that I got.
Everyone gained some positions because of this. Jared Mees' bike problems We'll check in with him and see if they've diagnosed what happened to the Indian.
You know, I don't really know quite yet. We plugged it into the laptop and it showed some things with some oil pressure, but until you dig into it, you just never really know. But it was unfortunate, and it was really unfortunate for Breyer to go out, and I believe he ran out of gas, I heard. So first and second ended the night early, and yeah, it's unfortunate. It's the way it goes. We had a really good season all year, and glad it happened now after the championship's over. So we'll try to go into the last race and win that one.
Shout out to Robert Pearson, third tonight on the RJ Performance Height Trucking Indian, veteran out of Illinois. Good to see him up on the box. Our next race is a season finale, October 21st at 2 p.m. in the shadow of New York City, the Meadowlands Mile.
Yeah, all the skyscrapers from Manhattan, you'll be able to see them right off the corners in 1 and 2.
And with the championships already wrapped, it's going to be a heck of a battle there. So join us. For Ralph Shaheen and Heather DeVoe, thanks for watching the Minnesota Mile. Congrats to Colby Carlisle, your winner in the singles class, and Brian Smith, who takes the win in twins. See you next week.